Profits come first. You're fired. I was just fired on the spot for being late to a business meeting and causing harm to the company. Thoughts raced through my head. Was what I did really wrong? Should I have just looked the other way at the time to save my own skin? After exchanging parting words, I was about to leave the CEO's office when suddenly the door flew open with a loud bang. Who could have imagined that in the next moment, an event would occur that would change our fates? I'm Ethan Miller, currently 25 years old and working as a salesman for a health food company. My company developed a supplement, a convenient supplement that busy working adults could take just twice a day to get all the nutrition they need. There's been a lot of overall heightened interest in health recently, which led to this supplement being developed. And just as the company predicted, the supplement became a hot topic. In other words, it was already a well-known supplement before I even started selling it. But just because something's a hit doesn't mean it ends there. In order to further boost sales, I've been proactively pitching to wholesalers. Since it was already a popular supplement to begin with, there was a lot of interest, and the more I pitched, the more sales channels continued to increase. It was a huge success for both me and the company. Both my sales performance and the company's business performance kept steadily rising. However, as supplement sales increased, problems gradually started to emerge as well. We started getting complaints, which we never got at all when we first launched. Recently, various issues have been cropping up, like foreign substances getting mixed in and products arriving late, and the number of complaints about these issues has been steadily increasing. I decided this wasn't something we could just ignore, so I went to talk to Department Head Thompson. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. What's up? Is there something on your mind? Yes, I think you're aware that we've been getting more complaints about the supplement recently. That? Yes, I've heard about it. It's great that the supplement is doing so well, but I was thinking maybe we should re-examine our production system and such. What do you mean? Why would we need to do that? Well, if we just ignore this problem, there's a chance the complaints could increase even more. Aren't you overthinking this a bit? Even if complaints are increasing, it's still a tiny fraction of the overall picture. That may be true, but if the supplement becomes even more popular, I'm worried various things might get overwhelmed. The company is doing the best it's ever done in its history. Now's not the time to put on the brakes. But you know, history shows that ignoring small problems can come back to bite you later. So we should. Enough. You're in sales, so just focus on selling more of the supplement. You're worrying too much. Thompson and I have always had different attitudes about sales. No, our fundamental worldviews are completely different. So I had a feeling he might not listen to me, but a lowly employee like me with no title has no choice but to do what my boss says. Even as I worried a bit, all I could do was keep doing my job the best I could and continue with sales. In terms of revenue, Thompson's instinct was correct, and my sales performance showed no signs of slowing down. And thanks to the supplement's growing reputation in the industry, we got an offer for a business deal with a major well-known distributor. If we could close this deal, we'd be able to wholesale the supplement through various distribution channels, which would undoubtedly lead to even more sales. If I could pull off this deal, my reputation would rise and the path to promotion would open up even more for me. The increasing complaints were concerning, but for now I decided to focus on closing this massive deal first. Even Thompson, who doesn't think too highly of me, had high hopes for this deal. This is a chance for the company to get even bigger. Make sure you seize it, he said as he sent me off. After preparing as thoroughly as I possibly could, the day of the big meeting arrived. The meeting was being held out of state, so I had booked a plane ticket in advance. Between you and me, I'm not a fan of flying. How can a giant hunk of metal fly through the sky? It's probably an outdated way of thinking, but you can't fight your fears. Even knowing it's the safest form of travel in the world provides no comfort. No matter how much I told myself I absolutely had to nail this meeting, my spirits were down in the dumps. Little did I know I was about to encounter a man far more desperate than I was. Isn't there any space on the flight to JFK? I absolutely have to get on the next flight. A man was yelling at the check-in counter staff with a frantic look on his face. The other passengers were looking at the man from a distance, wondering what was going on. He had the air of a man who would lose his life if he couldn't get on that flight. I'm very sorry, sir, but no matter how many times you ask, there's nothing we can do. Please, I'm begging you. I know it's unreasonable, but please. The only other flight with open seats is 3 hours from now. You'll have to take that one. But then I might not make it in time. Sir, you're disturbing the other passengers. Please stop yelling. But even if you say that, if you continue yelling, I'm going to have to call security. Please leave. With that warning, the man had no choice but to back down. He sat in a chair with a look of utter despair on his face, as if he had no more hope or future, and buried his face in his hands. Seeing this, I walked over to the man without a second thought. I stood in front of the man, who was sitting with his head in his hands, and gently tapped him on the shoulder. The man was streaming with tears, and he looked up at me with a crumpled expression. I silently held out my plane ticket to him. This is a ticket to JFK. His voice was filled with emotion, as if he had just unearthed a treasure map. Please use this. Are you sure? Yes, I'm not in that much of a rush. I can't believe it. I thought it was all over. I don't know what happened, but it must be something very important to you, right? Thank you so much. I'll never forget your kindness. It's okay, I really don't need to hurry. Really, thank you so much. I invited the man, who was still excited, to an airport cafe, and we moved there. There was still some time before the flight check-in. After taking a few sips of the coffee we ordered, the man finally calmed down and introduced himself as Brian Kelly. Thank you. Thanks to you, I've calmed down a bit. I'm glad to hear it. To be honest, I'm still worried sick, but you don't have to force yourself to talk about it if you don't want to. No, I want to tell you. Will you listen? All right, I'm all ears. I positioned myself to listen, hoping it would help Mr. Kelly feel even a little better. The truth is, I was here on a business trip, but I got word that my wife was in a car accident. That must be very worrying. Yes, I actually just arrived at this airport, so it still doesn't feel real. I see. I'm so sorry to hear that. When I turned on my phone, I had a missed call from the hospital. I understand now why you were so distraught, Mr. Kelly. I never imagined my own wife would be in an accident. I understand. Everyone thinks their own family will be safe. Mr. Kelly tapped on his smartphone and held it out in front of me. It showed a photo of Mr. Kelly, his wife, and his wife's younger sister. They are a beautiful pair of sisters. Honestly, they're so beautiful it's almost wasted on a guy like me. He smiled as he looked at his phone. Then his expression turned serious as he spoke. Actually, I got into a fight with my wife yesterday. I left for this trip without even saying good morning or seeing her face. When I heard she was unconscious and in critical condition, I realized just how irreplaceable she is to me. I held up a hand to stop him from finishing that thought. Let's not go there. You're right. I know how tough my wife is. I'm sure she'll pull through. We sat in silence for a while. Oh, could I get your contact info? I'll regret it forever if I can't repay you for this. I insisted that he didn't need to worry about it and that it was fine, but Mr. Kelly wouldn't hear of it. Really, thank you so much. See you again, Mr. Kelly said as he walked off to board his flight to JFK. As I watched him go, I prayed that his wife would be okay. Unless there was a cancellation, it would be 3 hours before I could make it to JFK Airport. And I didn't think there'd conveniently be a cancellation for my sake. I called the client I was supposed to meet with and explained the situation. However, apparently they had other appointments scheduled and unfortunately couldn't change the time. So they asked if we could postpone to another day. Naturally, I accepted this suggestion and we agreed to reschedule the meeting. It couldn't be helped since I was the reason. But the thought of telling my department head about this made me feel sick. To be honest, I could picture exactly what he would say to me. He may have been gung-ho about this deal, but he's always making snide remarks to me. I thought about calling him right away to tell him the meeting was postponed, but knowing Thompson, he'd definitely say something like the young folks these days have no manners, trying to share important news like this over the phone. As I rode the train back to the office, I was filled with a thoroughly depressing feeling. Why are you here? What happened with the meeting? As if to make things worse, the first person I ran into when I got back to the office was Thompson. I knew I'd have to report to him eventually, but I was caught off guard. I asked you why you're here. Well, there was a person in trouble at the airport, and I helped them out. One thing led to another, and I ended up not making it to the meeting in time, so it got rescheduled. What was that? So you're saying the meeting got pushed back because of you? That's about the size of it. Do you even understand what you've done? How do you expect to close a deal if you pull a stunt like that? I'm very sorry. I was a fool for actually having expectations of you for once. Helping some stranger and blowing a big opportunity. I'm reporting this to the CEO. Go home for today. I can't stand the sight of you. I had braced myself for the usual long-winded scolding, so being able to leave this quickly felt lucky. More than anything, I hate when he nags me like that. Considering that, maybe today was my lucky day after all. I was a bit concerned about him reporting it to the CEO, but I'd worry about that tomorrow. I was feeling pretty relaxed about it, but the next day, as soon as I got to work, I was summoned to the CEO's office and handed a termination notice. What in the world did the department head tell you? Don't say such impertinent things. When you get down to it, this is all your fault, isn't it? The deal isn't dead in the water. Isn't it a huge leap to fire me out of the blue like this? I heard all about you from Mr. Thompson. Seems you've been acting in ways that go against our company's policies. Isn't that just because Mr. Thompson doesn't like me? Talking to you, I can see that Mr. Thompson was right. You have a very defiant attitude. I'm not being defiant. I just speak up honestly when I think something's off. That's what I'm calling defiant. A company can't function if subordinates start mouthing off to their superiors. In other words, Mr. Bennett, you're saying underlings should be their boss's lapdog. There's no reasoning with you. Your sales numbers may have been good, but you're a liability. Hurry up and get out of here. Aren't you going to ask me anything about what happened yesterday? What's the point? Nothing you say is gonna be any different from what I heard from Mr. Thompson. You're not the only skilled salesman out there. Plenty of folks can replace you. This was my first time talking to the CEO, but apparently he's the same type as Mr. Thompson. I'm not trying to say I'm so great or anything. We just have a fundamentally different way of looking at the world. I don't regret for a second giving my ticket to Mr. Kelly, who was stranded at the airport yesterday. My boss was a pain, but I got along well enough with my other coworkers, and my sales numbers were top-notch. Obviously, I'm not exactly thrilled about getting canned, but even if I look back on what I did yesterday hundreds or thousands of times, I can say with absolute confidence that it was the right thing to do. It's a matter of principle. There are lots of things I won't compromise on, even if it means getting fired. Like my feelings toward my dad, for instance. Dad, let's play catch. Sure thing, kiddo. It's a beautiful day for it. Yay. Let's go to the park. Whoa there, don't go running out into the street. Gotta be careful. Okay, let's go. When I was in early grade school, my old man always played with me on his days off. I was so proud of my kind, cool dad. I remember my classmates coming over and saying stuff like Ethan's dad is so handsome and athletic. He's awesome, and feeling really proud. I felt the same way. But when I got to the upper grades, his job got busy and he started working more weekends, so he didn't have time to play with me anymore. Looking back now, I totally get that he simply didn't have the time. I'm a working adult these days myself. Even on my days off, I'm often so wiped from work that I don't set foot outside my house. It's not like I never have to go in on weekends either, but as a grade schooler, there's no way I could have grasped those grown-up circumstances. I started constantly grumbling complaints about my dad not playing with me anymore. Work again today. But it's Sunday. I'm sorry, Ethan. Work's been really busy lately. I gotta go in today. You said that last Sunday too. And the Sunday before that. When are you gonna play with me? You're right. Let's play once work calms down. But it might be a while. I can't wait that long. We haven't played together in forever. I want to play now. Don't make this harder for me. Just wait a bit longer. I said I can't wait. Fine. I won't play with you and I won't talk to you anymore, Dad. Mom told me that Dad was working really hard for the family, so I shouldn't make unreasonable demands. Even as a grade schooler, I knew that my old man was doing his best for us. But I was a total brat, and I stopped talking to my dad after that. Then one day, my dad was hit by a car and passed away. It was a random accident, and apparently he died the instant he was hit. I think back to Mr. Kelly, the man I met at the airport, Mr. Kelly got into a fight with his wife and came on this business trip without making up with her. And then his wife got into an accident and was in critical condition. Mr. Kelly was in a similar situation as I was back then. The last thing I wanted was for him to go through the same pain I did. That's why I have absolutely no regrets about what I did at the airport. Right now, I can only fervently hope that his wife will be okay. I'm currently doing a handover at the company where my dad used to work. That's right, I ended up getting a job at my late father's old company. Saying I'm carrying on his legacy might be laying it on a bit thick, but there's no doubt that I followed in his footsteps by joining this company. And it's precisely because I'm a salesman at the same company that I can imagine just how much my dad struggled. I'm not totally sure, but if my dad were still alive, he'd probably be around the same age as Mr. Thompson. Work isn't just about getting through your duties. At a company, you have to find a way to get along with people you don't gel with. Mr. Thompson, Mr. Bennett, my dad, they might have been each other's seniors, juniors, peers. Of course, it's also possible Mr. Thompson and Mr. Bennett came from a different company. I don't know, but I can kinda tell that my old man must have had his share of hardships too. As a fellow working adult, lost in thoughts of my dad, I finished up the handover. On my last day, I head to the CEO's office. Even if I don't like the guy, this company took care of me. No matter what he says to me, the least I can do is say goodbye. I knock on the CEO's office door, wait for a response, and enter. You're still coming in. I figured you'd be long gone by now. The handover wrapped up today. Thanks for everything. You came all this way just to say that. What's the point in being polite now? I'm just gonna find it annoying. Well then, excuse me. What, not even gonna get a little angry? You're not part of this company anymore. Though I suppose the rumor that you're useless is gonna spread now. If you'll excuse me. Spineless coward. No wonder your dad can't rest in peace. He wasn't much either. Like father, like son. If that door had opened a second later, I definitely would have spun around and decked Mr. Bennett. That's the only silver lining. And to add insult to injury, the one who opened that door was Mr. Thompson. Big trouble, Mr. Bennett. Our company is on the breaking news. Ever heard of knocking? What is it? Stop making a scene. Sorry, just take a look at this. It seems Mr. Thompson was tapping on his smartphone to show the CEO something. I just stood there dumbfounded, my anger suspended in midair. My violent impulse toward Mr. Bennett had already fizzled out. I see, so that's how it is. Yes, it'd be a shame to let him quit now, don't you think? I don't know what they're talking about, but Mr. Bennett and Mr. Thompson alternated between looking at the smartphone and my face. The hell are you looking at? Don't piss me off too much. I was reminded of my feelings back in middle and high school, when I was a delinquent always getting into fights. Ethan, we've done you wrong. It seems I misunderstood you. I stared at the CEO, who had suddenly started groveling, my expression unchanged. You did a wonderful thing for us. You're a treasure to our company. Won't you keep working here indefinitely? You're absolutely right, Mr. Bennett. Great job, Ethan. You're a hero to our company. I looked back and forth between the two of them with a straight face as they abruptly started spewing this sickening flattery. I didn't say a word. What's the matter? Why the scary look? If I said anything to offend you, I apologize. Was it about your father? Of course that was a lie. Your father was a truly outstanding junior of mine. Mr. Bennett, you knew his father. Oh yes, of course I knew him. We spent a lot of time together. I was truly shocked when he passed in that car accident. All right, I'm promoting you effective today. Your work has been truly excellent. I hope you'll keep working hard for our company. I told Mr. Bennett to shut up. I couldn't believe how much they were underestimating me. Their stupidity in thinking I'd just change my tune because of some news made me even more pissed off. Hey, I looked at Mr. Thompson and called out to him. I could see his expression freeze in an instant. Show me what you showed Bennett too. As if I were pointing a gun at him, Thompson meekly held out his smartphone. It was news about Mr. Kelly. It seems Mr. Kelly was able to safely reach his wife. And apparently his wife, who had been unconscious, woke up. She was out of the woods and would gradually recover with rest. If Mr. Kelly were an average Joe, this wouldn't have made the news. But get this, Mr. Kelly was actually the CEO of the major distributor I was supposed to have that meeting with. The media caught wind of his wife's accident, and it seems he agreed to an interview, during which he apparently expressed his gratitude while naming my company, and me specifically. And Mr. Thompson saw that news video and hurried to inform Mr. Bennett, right before I was about to punch Mr. Bennett's lights out. Makes sense. Of course, seeing that video would make you want to keep me around. If word got out that you fired me for giving up my plane ticket, the deal would be shot. I didn't hear anything about that, only that you helped someone in need. You and Thompson didn't even try to get the full story, did you? Don't give me your bullshit excuses. With that, I hurled Mr. Thompson's smartphone at the wall with all my might. The sound of the phone shattering and clattering across the floor reverberated excessively. The two of them were frozen stiff. Bennett, you can take your offer and shove it. I'm never having anything to do with your damn company again. Later, they both seemed unable to move, likely shocked by my enraged state that they'd never seen before. I snickered at their terrified expressions and left the CEO's office. I don't want any misunderstandings, so let me make this clear. I haven't gotten into a single fight since graduating high school. You might think what happened in the CEO's office was like a fight. I won't deny that. But that was the first time I'd snapped like that in about 10 years. In my second year of high school, I realized that if I kept wasting my days fighting, my life would be over. So I cut ties with my bad friends and started studying like my life depended on it. Because I had to get into a top college if I wanted to join the same company as my old man. Anyway, let's wrap up this story here. The day after I blew up in the CEO's office, in other words, the day after I quit the company, apparently Mr. Kelly visited the office to thank me in person, but I was nowhere to be found, so he asked Mr. Bennett and Mr. Thompson where I was. It seems the two of them only said that I had quit. No matter how much Mr. Kelly asked, they just kept insisting I had quit while avoiding eye contact. Unsatisfied with this, Mr. Kelly called me directly right in front of them. From my perspective, he didn't need to go out of his way to come see me, but that's just the kind of warm-hearted guy Mr. Kelly is. Oh, the company. Aita can't. Apparently helping people in need is a big no-no there. Mr. Kelly was utterly shocked that a company would handle things in such an unethical, immoral way in this day and age. Not to mention, the person in need that I helped was none other than Mr. Kelly himself. Once he learned the details, Mr. Kelly went off on them over the phone even harder than I did. Personally, I think Mr. Kelly is way scarier. Honestly, even I was pretty freaked out by Mr. Kelly's anger. And then he ripped into Mr. Bennett and Mr. Thompson, who were there, and slapped them with an official notice severing ties. His yelling was so loud I thought my eardrums would rupture for a second. And with that, the deal was safely called off. After I left, the company neglected to properly handle complaints. So just as I predicted, the ticking time bomb exploded and everything fell apart. It's amazing how those two bozos managed to make the massively popular supplement vanish from the public consciousness and be totally forgotten in the blink of an eye. Now the company is in constant decline, and there are whispers that it might go bankrupt soon. Well, I'm sure my old man up in heaven understands it couldn't be helped. Still, that was quite an ordeal you went through. No, it was way worse for your wife, Mr. Kelly. But I'm so glad she regained consciousness. I really can't thank you enough, Ethan. I didn't do much. At most, I just gave you my plane ticket. That's what's so amazing. Normally, no one would risk blowing a big deal like that. Well, it just kinda happened. Ethan, how'd you like to come work for my company? With someone like you, I'm sure the company would be better for it. That's a real kind offer. I up and quit without thinking ahead at all. Then it's settled. This is gonna be fun. After that, I moved to New York and started working at Mr. Kelly's company. Maybe because Mr. Kelly is the CEO, but it's a wonderful company with a great work environment where everyone helps each other out and pushes each other to be better. I met Mr. Kelly's wife too, and she thanked me with all her heart. She's so energetic now. You'd never guess she was unconscious and in critical condition before. Mr. Kelly's wife's younger sister works at his company too, and I ended up in the same department as her. If you ask me, I think the Kellys did that on purpose, but I fell for their scheme hook, line and sinker. Now I'm dating the younger sister. We have been growing closer, And I've been thinking recently that the day we become a real family might not be too far off.